Hi, welcome to Signal Chef. My name is Stuart. I'm an employee here at Signal Financial Federal Credit Union. And today I'm going to share with you one of my family's favorite little recipe secrets. It's a seafood boil from Louisiana. So, starting with the basic ingredients, we're looking at some nice andouille sausage. You can get Hillshire Farms. You're going to find that at Giant, Safeway, etc. Or something just like that. It could be pork, it could be beef, it could be turkey, whatever your preference is. I would say one large link per person as a serving. Next, we also include a ham steak. That's 3 ham steaks right there that I've cut up for 3 servings. So we cut those in about 2 inches or so chunks. Over here, we're looking at about an ear or 2 corn per person, and I've taken those and broken those in half. Some small red bliss potatoes, 2 to 3 potatoes per person. You take those and you permeate them with like fork holes, so that way the spices and the boil get deep inside the potato to make it nice and soft and flavorful. A few whole cloves of garlic, just leave them completely intact. Make sure they're fresh. You're going to throw those in exactly as is. 2 or 3 lemons, cut those in half. You're going to be squeezing those into the boil water, and a couple of onions. Make sure that you keep them whole. Peel off the outer skin, but leave them whole, because if you cut them up, they're going to start falling apart while you're boiling them. And over here is our protein du jour. We could have crawfish, shrimp, crab. It depends on whatever your choice of the boil is, or maybe all 3. The rule of thumb is 15 minutes for crawfish to boil completely, 10 minutes for crabs, and 5 minutes for shrimp. I'm thinking on average about half a pound to a pound of shrimp per person. Here's 4 pounds. So there's going to be enough for 4 people plus leftovers. And then our spices, there's different ways to do this as well. Zatarain is one of my personal favorites. It's got garlic, it's got cayenne pepper all in one. So you throw those boil bags. 1 boil bag should cover for maybe a pot this size over here. But there's also Old Bay, which isn't quite as zesty. It's a little more milder that people would like. Always throw in a little extra sea salt, and being from New Orleans and all, we throw in a little extra cayenne pepper just for giggles. And of course, lastly, you see these people that have these enormous cooking pots with propane underneath it and stuff that can feed like 20, 30 people. When you're doing a little personal boil for the family, you don't need one of those. Of course, it makes the cooking go a whole lot faster, but it makes a lot of waste and a lot of leftover. Here, this will easily be able to accommodate 4 to 6 people. So I fill up the pot with about 3/4 worth of warm water, and I'm going to bring that to a boil. In addition to using water, you don't have to use water. A lot of entrepreneurs down there that want something a little different in Louisiana, they throw in beer. I've seen high test alcohol put in there as well, but beer is a very common ingredient, like you would see maybe up here in Maryland where they do it for like crab boils. That beer really infuses into the meat. The alcohol kind of boils away, but you get that nice flavorful beer flavor, if that's something that you enjoy having with your family and friends. Okay, so water's coming to a boil. As you can see, like I said, it's about 2/3 to 3/4 full. Threw in my 1 bag of Zatarains, and again, while it's coming up to a boil, because we're getting to add our vegetables first. The vegetables need the most time to cook. That's going to be about 10-15 minutes. So you're going to sit there, bring this to a full boil, get those vegetables in there. Now I'm adding extra cayenne pepper in this particular case. It's just a dash or 2. It's not a big deal. This is going to do most of the work, but this is a little extra. Give it a little And then sea salt, crawfish, shrimp, crabs. Well, they live in the bay, they live in the ocean, so you got to make sure that you're putting that salt back in there, so that way it tastes more authentic than just bland water. And then I'm not putting in Old Bay, but that's in case y'all wanted that. It'll be there at the store when you go and buy it, but it's a little too tame for my taste buds. But like I said, as you can see, the water's coming up to a boil, and now we're going to add the vegetables, and you're going to cook those for as long as you need until they're literally on the verge of being done. So getting tender. You don't want to overcook them, but you obviously don't want hard vegetables when you're serving your meal. So let me come over here, grab our vegetables, and start adding these. And be careful with putting the stuff in. It splashes. Just be careful. Onions are probably going to take the longest. They're the biggest. And then when you get your lemons, squeeze those puppies wring them out good and put the entire fruit in there. Don't worry about the label. And you're basically getting all that lemon oil and essence in there, that citric acid. It makes all the flavors meld really well with the peppers and the garlic and the onion and all the other spices that are in there. So, and oops. Now we wait for this to come to a boil again, and we'll monitor to make sure that the vegetables are close to being done. Again, I give it about roughly 10-15 minutes or so. You'll need to monitor it and check them. There's no set methodology on making sure it's done like by time. You have to go in there, have a nice slotted spoon or something that you can fish in there and check, you know, like I'd say a nice red bliss potato. So we've been at this for a while. We have a lot of raw vegetables that we've using an electric stove to get to a high boil and hold that for several minutes. So after testing several times with the fork and actually taking a piece out and cutting a piece of potato off to make sure that it's not going to be too raw at the center, everything looks like it's done. So we're going to move on. We're going to take some of these vegetables out and put them in a holding bowl over here so we can make room for the other for the proteins to come in next. We're also going to be too full and overflow. So we'll get right back to it. So since our pot was full of vegetables, cooked vegetables, I've taken those out to stand for a couple of minutes. And now we've made room in the pot so that it won't overflow, so we can get our proteins in. Let's start with the ham and the sausage, and we'll put those in first, since they need slightly longer cooking time than the shrimp do. Again, the shrimp, you're pretty much only going to need about 5 minutes or so. The ham and the sausage, they're already cooked, but we want them to be able to soak in there and have get that seasoning in place. So that's going to take, let's say 10 minutes. So keeping them in there for 10 minutes isn't going to cause any problem whatsoever. But you'll be able to tell when they're done because the casings will be all swollen, like they've soaked in all that juice and are cooked and are getting ready to burst open like kind of like a ballpark frank on a grill. So you'll be able to tell. So you put these in here. And like I said, let's do about 5 to 10 minutes. I'm thinking maybe about 10 minutes. Okay, so our sausages and our ham is wrapping up, boiling there in the pot. It's been a few minutes. The casings are starting to swell and split open, so that's a good sign that they're well cooked and that savory broth is really permeating into the flesh. And so now we take our lead protein, our star, in this case, we're going to do shrimp, and we're going to put it in there for about 5 minutes or so because everything else is pretty much done cooking. It's just going to keep that warm and bring this up to temperature, and then we cut it off and then we serve it. I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes just so that we can eyeball the shrimp to make sure that they're not underdone, and when they're ready they're going to be this really beautiful pink, rosy pink / red. So it's been about 5-10 minutes. All the shrimp are now this beautiful, pinkish orange color, so we know everything's nice and cooked. The sausage casings are cracking open, getting all that flavor in there, ready to eat. So what we do now is you turn everything off, let it cool off for a moment, pour out your boil, or what you can do is you scoop out your protein and your vegetables into a bowl, and you take that to the table and dump it out there, which we'll do in just one moment. I don't have to film this. Please don't crash. Follow me around.
Look at that. Wow.
Leave some broth in there. Keep it nice and moist. We got the seasoning bag in there. I'll pick that out in just a minute, but there you go. You got enough for at least 4 people and leftovers. So enjoy your own homemade seafood boil from New Orleans, courtesy of Chef Stu.
Woohoo!
See y'all next month.